between these two. There you get to look at the decks and what's been banned away. Mechathune Warlock been banned away from Ryvius. Meanwhile, the Odd Rogue from Tom has been banned away. And Saddle, I know you were talking a lot about how you expect aggro to be good this weekend, and I think Ryvius's lineup is, you know, one of those reasons why you expected that.
Down on the other side, I think Odd Rogue has become the poster child for the aggro strategy. We've said the words Odd Rogue a lot over the past 2 weeks, where we've meant just like generic play minion aggro strategies. But there's a reason it's the poster child, and that's because it's perhaps the most powerful option for doing that kind of thing.
Yep, and first game that we're going to be having here, Togwaggle Druid versus Tom's Even Warlock. That's going to be coming up here with Ryvius going to be on Togwaggle Druid. And this is a deck that, you know, towards the Roscon's Rumble being released, a deck that I played a ton leading up to that because I ended up hanging out on BlizzCon weekend with Rage, and we just jammed combo decks the entire time. And Togwaggle was the one that we had of particular interest, but I'm quite surprised to be seeing it over the Mechathune Druid and, you know, the power that deck yields. Do you have a take on this right now? Because I feel like this is a deck that's been almost extinct as far as the metagame's concerned.
Yeah, I mean, my take is that I pretty much agree with what you just said. I think Mechathune Druid is something that you'd expect to see a little bit more of, especially even Ryvius has history, I believe, of bringing Mechathune Druid to a tournament. When I picked him, it was because I thought he had this genius lineup where he'd just kind of thrown in these Mechathunes into a couple of his decks to really give him consistency and insurance against a couple of the counter strategies that he could come up against. So seeing him divert from that and stick Mechathune in just his Warlock, whereas switching to the Togwaggle with the Druid is equally surprising to me.
Yeah, I'm looking at Ryvius and his past successes. You know, we're looking at he was 3rd in points for the regional points race this year. Had a top 12 back in the Fall Championship and was 2nd place at the Tour Stop in Bangkok and top 8 at the Tour Stop that happened in Tokyo. And you mentioned it, the playoffs where he brought the Mechathune lineup. Yep. That's just what we had to call it because that's what it was. And that's how he qualified for a championship. He's facing off against Even Warlock right now. And, you know, Tom's in one of those positions where this is the spot where, as Druid, you either hate to be or you love to be because you either have the answer to the big minion or you don't have the answer to the big minion. And I have found often if Ryvius is going to have that answer in this spot, it's looking pretty good for him.
I can definitely see that, yeah. There are a few threats to follow that up from Tom, and I think he's just considering sequencing of said threats, like whether he can be cheeky and try and get out a Naturalize on a smaller minion than the Mountain Giant. Also the consideration of whether to tap Giant here or not, based on the consideration of Naturalize, then overdrawing you cards. And some multiple options for our still reigning world champion in Tom60229.
Yeah, and honestly, this is a really important turn because of that. I have found in my time playing Even Warlock against Druid that the burns you're a little bit less fearful of. Your life total, you do need to be mindful of it, but I'm not sure how much the tap really influences the outcome in terms of getting to 15 health and playing your Hooked Reaver. The math on tapping that many times, you're still not going to be in the 15 range by the time you get to an 8-mana turn. Where Tom has Lich King already. So if he just is paying extra life for the sake of paying extra life, it ends up being a moot point at the end of the day.
Ryvius just playing his curve here, dropping Ironwood Golem just to prevent the 8 damage, does not want to throw out his own Naturalize. He wants to, A, be as greedy of those as possible so he can use them in more desperate situations later, or B, use them actually as part of his own win condition when it comes down to that Togwaggle deck swap, because using Naturalize, you can make your opponent overdraw fatigue cards and just use that to burst damage when you swap decks at the end of the game.
Yeah, a very common thing that used to happen in this matchup as well was that Even Warlock had different tech for various reasons. You know, Mossy Harbor or a Shadow Flame were quite necessary in the deck for the ability to actually push through Spreading Plague.
Sure.
And at times even Giggling Inventor back before it was changed to 7 mana. And that's no longer the case. Tom does have a copy of Nerubian Unraveler as his one flexible option in Even Warlock. And without having access to Mossy Harbor, I feel like that Ryvius' line here really ends up paying off in the long term. He gets to just tank damage with his cards via Iron Golem, and at some point land a Spreading Plague to absorb a lot of damage and unlock an important turn.
Yeah, and I think just having that curve available to him with like minimal fill-in in the middle, like if he needed to spend 1 turn just gaining armor with branching paths, if he really had to, then sure, he can just do so, with Spellstone in hand as well to use his removal. But having drawn the 2nd Ironwood Golem, he's just going to continue doing what brought him to the dance, and that's just play out minions. But this was a lot more threatening situation for Tom to be able to push damage through this.
Yeah, the other issue I'm seeing here is that Ryvius has actually drawn the Ironwood Golems rather than the open summons.
Yeah.
So that's 2 cards in the deck that are just troublesome from Ryvius to cast. and that means 2 extra cards in the deck in total, because the Oaken Summons isn't pulling them from your deck. So it is a little bit more, legwork to do if Ryvius is going to get to the end of the deck and use that Togwaggle Azalina combo to swap the decks, then copy the hand from Tom.
Yep.
The goal is to strip away Tom's deck in totality, but you have to strip away the minions first, and I love Tom's line here.
I do too. I wanted to comment because you picked up the Dread Inferno originally. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. You don't get to push much damage here. The 1 damage AoE doesn't really change your breakpoints as to what trades into the 3/6. I can understand wanting to get another 6 attack minion on board because of the threat of exactly this spreading play coming down. But when you just weigh up the option of push 14 or don't push 14, it becomes a very simple equation, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. Spellbreakers and even Warlock are largely there to just break a taunt and connect with Mountain Giant and various other big minions that you'll have in play.
Right.
And Tom's doing just that. Not only that, holding on to the Dread Infernal means that the Twilight Drake or the Spellbreaker, they actually break through a couple of these taunts when they attack.
They sure do. Let's have Hellfire options here, which would enable him to push a lot more damage, get the Mountain Giant through, but without Axe. If this was an 8-mana turn and he could Hellfire and perhaps heal up that Mountain Giant again afterwards, that might look more appealing, but it's probably just too much AoE to your own board in this spot.
I would definitely think so. That's a good spot to know when you should and should not be AoEing as well.
Right.
The more minions you have in play, the more difficult a Hellfire is going to look against you.
That attack, the arrow there of the 2/4 into the 1/5 is somewhat suggestive of that Hellfire play happening, though.
I'm looking more at the Sun Fury double trading with the 2s. Setting up as a variable 4.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom's going to do this first and just take a gander at the board. Help him visualize. He knows that's where he's going. Oh, it's been a while, I feel like, since I've seen that card.
He's still around. High Legend Ladder right now is actually there's a lot of like Hakar Druid and other various things around right now. People are still, claiming that it's a very, very strong deck in the metagame. But again, Ryvius with this just straight up Togwaggle build. A little unusual to be seeing.
The circle of life is over.
Spellstone upgrades from the Malfurion. Takes out a Dread Infernal. And suddenly all these 1/5s are softening board positions. They're extending Ryvius' life. And this was all even without directly answering a Mountain Giant, but Tom draws Blood Reaver Gul'dan. And that's going to be major reload for his push. There is currently a Dread Infernal and a Vulgar Homunculus in the pool already, and I'm looking at a Hooked Reaver that can potentially get in there before this Gul'dan comes down as well.
Sure can. And the pressure isn't going to let up anytime soon for Tom. It's turn 8, and Lich King is green. There's Bone Mare possibilities here as well. Lich King is almost always going to be good, whereas you're not always going to have a board state like this to be able to consolidate a Bone Mare on.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point to make. Because one of the things to take into account is that Tom he didn't see Naturalize on his early Mountain Giant.
Right.
He didn't see that Spellstone until way deeper into the game. And Lich King, once you get Blood Reaver Gul'dan down, is your one opportunity to keep generating cards in the meantime. I love the Bone Mare here. I think it just creates an overall stronger board position. And then you get to follow up how you'd like into Blood Reaver Gul'dan into Lich King. It's, long turns of setup that, the variables can change. But Lich King is often, it's better as your final threat than it is, I think, as your first one.
First draw off the branching does pick up the Spellstone. So the armor now can give Ryvius some removal options. But he's really being forced in this position now where he can't just sit around and remove minions forever. He does have to use some of these cards to draw because that is the goal of his deck. That is his win condition. He needs to get down as low as possible in his deck, swap over a bunch of garbage to Tom, and hopefully fatigue on the other side.
And Ryvius, the fact that he has not used the Naturalizes by this point tells me he's very interested in an empty deck swap into Naturalize for the burn damage. When your opponent has no deck and you can double Naturalize, from their turns draw as well, they end up taking 15 total points of fatigue damage.
But if anything's going to test Ryvius' resolve, it's this Lich King that comes down right now, because not only does it need to be answered, it's also multiple cards burned for Tom. Not that that's likely to have a huge impact with the draw that Tom already has Gul'dan in his hand, already has demons in the pool. But yeah, that boy's just got to go. Yeah. You can't just let that Lich King hanging around on board.
Also has yet to see Togwaggle or Azalina. You know, the longer it sticks around, the more a threat of a Death Grip disrupting that combo becomes a real thing.
Well, rip the tech card. Didn't need it anyway. Game did you a favor, Tom.
Stops him from playing Ultimate Infestation, though.
It sure does. That's a great point.
Another card I feel like I haven't seen in quite a while.
Ryvius probably thinking exactly the same thing.
All the minions that cost 4 or less have been pulled away from Ryvius' deck in the natural draw. Those 2 Oaken summons are straight up gain 6 armor.
There's a spicy play coming out from Tom. Deals 3 damage to his own Twilight Drake just for the luxury of being able to play a 7/7 this turn. Does not want to slow down one bit. Back this up with the huge Blood Reaver turn after this. But from Ryvius' side, like, every time I watch Druid now, it just feels so fair. And you don't want a deck that feels fair. I've lost so much faith in the Druid class. It was so dominant for so long, but it was a class that was primarily based around cheating out mana, just getting ahead of your opponent, being able to do more powerful things than they could do. Ryvius has had a 6-mana Nourish in his hand this entire game. It's just been too expensive for him to be able to spend it on ramp.
I definitely feel like that Ryvius is hitting a point where he might be getting past the super danger zone, though. I mean, Tom has Blood River Gul'dan, has Army of the Damned. Ryvius still has Spreading Plague and a Branching Pass there, though.
Right.
He has a Naturalize for this Hooked Reaver. The time that he sees Tom play Blood River Gul'dan, you get that big swing turn of the Spreading Plague plus the Branching Pass, which is just a ton of health and a ton of ways to fight on board because of that. Ryvius, you know, I think it is a couple turns away still for him. You know, it's going to be hard to get through his deck and assemble this. But I think he's really close to making that turn happen.
Does find the UI now. Oaken Summons is going to do nothing apart from gain that 6 armor. So now facing down 13 on the board. And Tom is going to pull the trigger now on this Gul'dan board, which is going to summon back, crucially, a big 6/6, which is not going to be locked out by a Spreading Plague. That 2/4 is as much of a liability as it is helping out for Tom right now.
Ryvius choosing to use the Oaken Summons over the Naturalize too. This is also a deck where your hand size matters, and you need to, you know, use as much of your stuff as you can.
Yeah.
And so, utilizing your mana properly is a very real thing. And if he naturalizes that Hooked Reaver, it's coming right back to the Gul'dan. And so I think that was part of the big reason Ryvius chose to hold that.
Plus attack on the Scarab Beetles here means that just Hellfire is only 1 away from doing the job. And Defile Hellfire, in fact, is going to be able to push everything through. Yep, it's going to do the job. Ryvius just needed far too many turns there. We mentioned he hadn't drawn his Azalina or his Tog yet, so he just saw Azalina come into play, but that's the turn he died. After that, he needed to find a turn to play Florist at some point without dying when he was out of Spreading Plagues. He then needed to have a turn where he gets the deck swap done without dying. Like, for me...
Be on his even Paladin taking on Ryvius with the Quest Rogue.
The Quest Rogue.
The Quest Rogue.
You should actually just get a job as Epic voiceover guy. I think you'd do very well.
Thank you.
No? Gonna keep casting Hearthstone? Alright, fair enough.
It's kind of like Epic voiceover guy.
I guess.
It's just a very long voiceover.
Yeah. Just more dumb, goofy voiceover guy.
It's just most of the time you hear my voice, you don't actually see me. So, you know, it's very in the voiceover tone.
But Quest Rogue coming back with a vengeance into the metagame. We saw it actually be quite successful last week. Which seems weird to say, because the games we saw on stream of it did not seem to perform very well. But the fact remains, the ratio of players that brought the deck to who made it into the later stages, the top of the Swiss records and the top 8, it was very disproportionate to suggest that Quest Rogue was a good bring. So personally, not a deck I have played for a while, although there have been periods of time where I've been absolutely obsessed with Quest Rogue. But looking forward to this, because I think this is just a slow enough, mid-rangey enough deck where Quest Rogue might be able to get some work done.
Well, as soon as you say that, I see the second Corpse Taker drawn for Tom.
Shush. Look, just don't talk about it, all right? just close your eyes.
He's gonna call me out right away. That is the worry for that's you know, to me this card Corpse Taker is one of the reasons that even Paladin continues to be such a force, even in matchups where it can be a little bit slow or it can suffer from not having the right amount of pressure. Corpse Taker can change all of that.
I like that you use the word even like 3 different times with 3 different meanings.
It's just it's the right word for the most of those spots.
Yeah.
What how else could I say that?
No, I like it. It was very genuine. I liked it.
Thought
I liked it.
exercise. Even when a situation is occurring. What else could I say there?
Many things, such as this lab recruiter shuffling many copies of this South Sea deckhand into hand.
All right, you really don't want to talk about it after that comment you made.
Bailing out of that conversation.
Kangor drawn, so no lifesteal. That is not the important facet. It is that whimsical little spiral of Aether around it. That means Wind Fury. Attack twice.
Yes, indeed. Ryvius does have Vanish here, but one of the great signals of losing a game as Quest Rogue is that you're being forced to vanish in a situation that makes no progress for you towards Quest. You'll more often be looking for like turn 7 player 1-drop that you're questing on and vanish, or play a bunch of minions, prep vanish, and then play them again. Ryvius does have those kind of possibilities available to him, but with the deckhand played and then shuffled in off the lab recruiter, he now has no real further progress on Quest available in hand. But I think that play of deckhand plus lab recruiter was much more about board presence and shuffling useful removal minions in South Sea deckhands into his deck more than it was quest completion.
And this is kind of where I expected Ryvius to go, is with this Wax Elemental and this Ola. And, you know, looking at the Vanish in hand, this makes a lot of sense. Quest Rogue, to me, really changed in my head in its effectiveness when I was taught to play the deck as a weak board control deck. You fight for board control as long as you can.
Yes.
And somewhere along the way, you figure out how to complete your quest. That's exactly what Ryvius is doing right now, and I think it's what he's got to do in order to win this game. And Tom, I think, very smartly recognizes that Vanish is on the horizon and takes out the Zola here.
Yeah. Coin, Vanish, not even prep would be necessary here for Ryvius. But I love that description of Quest Rogue. I've described it to people in a very similar way. It's that you earn the right to do incredibly broken things later on by having to scrap by with very weak things early on. You just have to do the best of a bad job. And Ryvius is just going to sit back and tank an enormous amount of damage here. But again, I made the point early on, the sign of a game you are losing is when you are forced to vanish as Quest Rogue.
Yeah.
You know what another sign of a game you're losing is, Admirable?
When you're at 4 on turn 6.
That's it.
Ryvius, I think, makes the right call here, though. It is a dangerous one. It is one that you don't want to make. It's one you don't want to ever have to make. Right. But it's one you're going to have to make at some point. And Ryvius here goes with the double vicious Scale Hide and the prep Vanish afterwards just to try to get something rolling. It's just the way the deck works. If it gets pressured, it's in trouble.
Crucially, the coin into prep, into vanish sequencing. We've all done it. Don't pretend you haven't. Guy in Twitch chat, I know you have.
Yeah, me.
But Tom, right, I mean, Tom really doesn't have huge decisions to make in this point. It's just reload a big threatening board and hope there is not a further answer. But a further answer there is, because Sonya comes off the top to potentially give Ryvius some game, but I still don't think it's enough to stop this. Is it? Healing for 2 more, but then the South Sea deckhand has to come out instead because it's a 2-1, yeah.
Well, the way that Ryvius would win this game is Tom doesn't have damage.
Right.
And right now, Tom does not have damage.
Right.
And now Tom has damage.
Yeah.
And that's going to do it. Tom, quick 2-0 lead here. As soon as Quest Rogue struggles and it takes one of those big hits, it's in a bad spot. And you can see it, Ryvius, the entire game appeared distressed, appeared pained by what was happening. And rightfully so. Double Corpse Taker is not kind to Quest Rogue.
It's
matching up well versus Tom's, and this matchup seems to me like it might only get worse from here.
Yeah, and it goes to indicate that Ryvius might just struggle against the field as he goes through here, because the decks that he has had a really tough time against so far, the Even Paladin and the Odd Rogue from Tom, that's 2 of the decks that we saw in that graphic on our pre-show as the most improved and most common decks in this field. So Ryvius is going to run into a few more of those before his time is up. And now he's going to switch away again onto his topsy-turvy APM Quest Priest. Diamol on 1, Razormaw on 2, Animal Companion on 3 from Tom60229.
I want to talk a bit about building a lineup and what it means, because
Sure.
I think that for Ryvius, it's quite rare you get to see a player have exactly hit the style that he has, where it's that constant willingness to take risks in tournaments. And I want to talk about, what it means to win a tournament and the difference between consistent play and trying to win the whole event. It feels like to me that at every step, Ryvius has tried to win the whole event.
I want to talk about Tom being smart and playing that Hyena on 2, because I will admit my brain totally autopiloted just the default curve, but that Hyena on 2, no real answer available in Ryvius's deck, and he now gets to double dip on the Razormaw looking for plus attack and Wind Fury, and that is such a bad roll for him to get basically no offensive power out of those 2 options. Let me be clear, his start is insane. He has drawn the Uber nuts.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're in agreement.
Yeah. His draw...
Does he need any more?
His draw is the Stone Cold Cashews, but those Rosamores were disappointing. You feel like when the game's handing you everything that it's just going to keep going and you're just going to nail plus attack Wind Fury off the 2 Razormaws, you know?
This isn't Wind Fury. Disappointed! Ryvius is good. I mean, Mass Hysteria is still a heck of a card, though.
It is. But it's going to have a hard time killing that big boy Hyena.
Do you know the math on 3 minions?
I'm wondering whether it will remain 3 minions when it comes out here, because
Tom's not. He just doesn't care.
Exactly. Like, first off, there is always an argument to say make him have the Mass Hysteria. I think people are too scared. On turn 5, they have not drawn that many cards. Step 1, make them have it. Step 2, when there's 1 minion on board with a much higher base of stats than the other minions, then it's actually beneficial in some spots to have an even number of minions on board.
Well, this is it.
That's a good start.
That's the attack Ryvius wanted to see second, and suddenly there's some breathing room, and Tom, you can see, looks very disappointed with that outcome.
Yes, he does.
And now faced with some pretty ridiculous decisions to have to make. When Tom had made the board the way he did, I was eyeing the Timberwolf. And one of the reasons I was eyeing the Timberwolf was A, it pushed more damage immediately in case Mass Hysteria happened.
Right.
But B, in the event that Mass Hysteria happens, I think it might increase the benefit he gets from it.
Question mark?
Now, the
5 minions on board?
The problem with it is
the numbers?
Once you get to like the 4 minion and 5 minions, you start ending up with so many iterations of Mass Hysteria outcomes that it is almost nonsensical to try and calculate it. And the idea that you could have memorized that many different Hearthstone scenarios is also nonsensical. You can't. But I think one of the reasons that Tom was willing to hold on to it was because he had a significant follow-up afterwards. He had Savannah Highmane down the road, and that's really, the final push point from Tom. If this Savannah Highmane sticks, which it often does versus Ryvius, we're looking at Psychic Scream, Mass Hysteria, no other way to eliminate big minions in the deck, that's a win condition.
It is, but Ryvius now, with the Twilight's Call draw, does give him a brief window of finding the Death Rattle completion that at least will get him the Amara to stabilize his time for the time being. He was upset with the outcome of the Twilight's Call there, now picking up Loot Hoarders. Could have fought for the board a little better in the early game. Tom's out of gas, though.
Uh-oh. Tracking finds some stuff. Kill command, that's 5, 6, 7 plus 7.
16, I think.
I'm counting 17 total with the
17, yeah, right, yep.
So he can't push through the Amara.
Nope.
So he's got to find a way to actually deal with this, and I think that that's really the hesitation here. I think it's Master's call if you anticipate Ryvius getting Amara next turn, which, since you just do 2 more Death Rattles from his deck, you probably do.
Yeah, I agree. It looks like a Master's Call to me. I feel like in a world where your opponent is not playing his Amara next turn, you are winning regardless of what card you take here. Tom is going to go all in with the kill command, though. So
it makes some sense to me. Ryvius does need to have a 2-mana Death Rattle and a 1-mana Death Rattle, which he does have, but Tom's got Deathstalker Rexar to refuel. I think is the thought from Tom. And when he sees this Amara come down, the game plan's Deathstalker Rexar after that.
That's fair.
You are safe now.
Ryvius might have found a way to get out of this situation.
Or maybe, actually, his kill command was a reservation for Amara, because this now allows him to go kill command, flanking strike on the Amara and just preserve his entire board state.
That's a very true story as well. You know, the deck list that Thomas brought here, this isn't the Secret Package Hunter, it's the Tundra Rhino Savannah Highmane, and it's a lone copy of Savannah Highmane. I think there is a lot of merit to just pushing through the Amara here and continuing to keep the heat on Ryvius, because his hand is backed up by the Deathstalker Rexar and the Flanking Strike afterwards. He doesn't really run out of gas in this situation, so he is free to just burn it away. Interesting.
So that's what's going to happen. Leaving this test subject alive, which is probably going to happen, does open up some dirty options for the opponent, and Tom actually does go ahead and respect that. You know, leaving the test subject alive lets Ryvius do some kind of silly things with recycling cards in hand. That Power Word Shield #1 on that list in terms of fighting his way through his deck, and I think you just saw a little bit of body language there from Ryvius, where he feels like that turn was the turn where he finally turned the corner.
Yeah, and I think it is as well. I mean, he just has so much time afterwards with Ziliax still in hand, with the Power Word Shield.
Yeah.
Picked up Vivid Nightmare. You know, we're missing not too much to get this job done at this point. And a lot of time to find those cards, and only 11 cards left in deck. Ryvius is playing, of course, the Topsy-Turvy deck, which basically chains together a lot of spells, loads them up to test subjects so that you can keep cycling through them, and makes a virtually infinite attack Stone Tusk 4 to kill the opponent. Looking for one more Radiant Elemental is Ryvius.
Yikes. Tom very much on the back foot here. Needs something explosive from his Deathstalker Rexar, and those are not the options. Picks a relatively low-cost beast here, so we can tempo out 2 minions in one turn.
Just picturing the stealth hungry crab and like a Murloc walking by. It's like... That's how it naturally hunts in the wild anyway.
But Ryvius now just going to keep on making some progression.
Seance found as well. And now the Topsy-Turvy.
Yep. That's the full deck.
Oh, look at this too. Forces the attack from Ziliax. And what, you know, Ryvius is hoping for there is that either the 2 beasts on the opposite side clear it off.
Right.
Is he supposed to Mass Hysteria first? Yes, he definitely is.
Yeah.
Gets a lot of health out of that.
Yeah. Sounds right. All the formality, though, like, that was the turn that you quite often see from a combo deck, where it's like, I intend to kill you next turn, therefore I'm just going to do all of the defensive things I can do this turn. Like,
hand space, too.
Yeah, hand space, and anything that takes any amount of damage off the board is good for me. Ryvius is set up to rip next turn.
Job done.
User error is what will prevent this spot. And Ryvius, not really a user error kind of player in these spots.
You wouldn't have thought so. It can happen, but it shouldn't. As the stage we've hit now, this deck has been around for a long time. The vanilla route of just getting 1 Stone Tusk Boar or 2 Stone Tusk Boars to connect with face is actually very easy after a few months of repetition. Easier than it was for me to say that sentence, apparently.
Yeah, they don't make sentence simulators. You know, the Topsy simulator.
Isn't that just a language class? Like,
I guess so, yeah. I mean, you're too smart for my own good.
welcome back, class, to Sentence Simulator 101.
Got a hot $10,000 tournament for you in Sentence Simulator.
Meanwhile, in Hearthstone, things have happened. Divine Spirits have been played. This boar is getting ever increasingly towards the stages of Tusky Murder to Deathstalker Rexar.
Yeah, and you see that, you know, it's going quite slow on Ryvius's end. it's going, for on the spectator end at least, it's going quite fast on Ryvius' end where the animations are concerned. It takes the spectator client a long time to catch up with exactly how many actions that he's taken this turn.
Yeah.
And that's why it's called APM Priest, actions per minute.
You can see a long time ago, Ryvius took his hands away. He psyched himself up a bit, gave himself a little slap in the face, just trying to get himself back into the mindset of this series. There it is again, but you can see the spectator now just playing catch-up, letting all these animations play out. Stone Tusk Ball coming through for potential lethal. There is the third. 16-1 Stone Tusk Ball to finish the job. Easily done for Ryvius in that spot once he turned the corner with the Amara and the Psychic Scream.
Priest gets a point on the board here with Topsy Priest. He doesn't always lose to aggro, thanks to Waggle Druid. And honestly, I'm a bit surprised he's even managed to get one win so far.
I mean, we will wait and see. He's drawn Prep again as the Quest Rogue in the aggro matchup, but Tom has drawn the Curve again. He's got Diamol into Scavenging Hyena, not quite as oppressive as it was last time around. And let's remember just how good Tom's opening draw was in that past matchup that we saw. And the Quest Priest, the Topsy Priest, was able to still just about scramble a way back into it.
Well, Tom's got another fantastic opener this time, and I'd say in this matchup, the damage is a bit stickier. It tends to be. You know, Ryvius has that chance to get back into it, but that's post-Quest, very much like it is in the Priest game. The Quest, however, from Ryvius' side in this game, I feel like it's a bit harder to get to.
Oof.
Right now, Ryvius is going to be under pressure. Tom chooses to hold coin instead of compound the issue with the second Dire Mole. And I imagine that means he's looking at getting Dire Frenzy active as early as possible to get damage rolling.
I wonder whether Tom is going to just tempo out the Scavenging Hyena here. It looks like a reasonable proposition, but you know from Tom's perspective, Ryvius kept a card. I think the Prep was the only card that was kept alongside the Quest, but that card is very entitled to be a South Sea deckhand. It's something that you keep, and I think this play, as what I was about to suggest, is a direct recognition of playing around South Sea deckhand in particular, of not wanting to give your opponent such a big tempo swing early on.
It's weird that Timberwolf is being used in this spot to me. It's pushing 1 damage with a Dire Mole and prompts Ryvius to use 1 dagger attack.
Yep. It means
effectively resulting in Arcane Shot your face.
It means, though, if there is a South Sea deckhand in hand, that he's preserving both of these Dire Moles on board, which get to continue to push damage.
Ryvius, I imagine, is going to be eyeing to use a preparation next turn to activate Elven Minstrel. And that means Tom, floor's open for him to start getting some pressure going.
Yep. And with that in mind, Ryvius is considering how much mana he wants to spend this turn and on what. Glacial Shard comes down and becomes a threat, honestly, on Tom's side for the Scavenging Hyena and the Springpole combination to be able to trade some gas into this.
It's little disruptive tools that Ryvius uses. It's a huge expense that he pays to get this done, but again, the best way this deck has been described to me in terms of piloting it is play it as a board control deck. It's quite a weak one, but it is one.
Yeah.
And if you're able to control the board, at some point in the game, if you're still alive, you will complete the quest and perhaps be able to recover from there. Lots of foresight, lots of small little things that go into it, but this is the way to play it. You have to expend your tools and watch them burn away and trust that your deck will produce.
Yeah, Tom did his due diligence there in terms of making sure that he found other lines if there was one, but it was a pretty straightforward looking play. Ryvius, however, finding a spell to prep off this turn is fantastic for him. And the Glacial Shard off the top, already played 1, finds option 2 and 3 in hand, but is still going to respect the ever-growing threat of that Scavenging Hyena, and I do like that, because that thing will just get bigger and bigger, and you only have 2 more turns to freeze it out with Shard, and once those turns are exhausted, that Hyena will kill you.
However, Ryvius, you see the shake of the head when he sees Dire Frenzy. This is almost exactly what he wants to see in this spot. Being able to Glacial Shard the threat from Tom, because it's compounded onto 1 minion, means a great deal. Gets to Elven Minstrel because he found a spell to preparation on the previous turn and find a better turn for it. Picks up Sonya to be able to fuel this, and it feels to me like Ryvius might be in the positive win rate situation that Quest Rogue gets into, and way before Tom knows it.
Kill command and so on can still very much give him the business in this game, though, because there's no Scale Hides in sight just yet, and he's a long way from Valera country. What? Expecting the Elven Minstrel that much? The Glacial Shard has to die there for sure because you open up Sonya as a possibility. You know your opponent has another shard in hand because of it was the Mimic Pod card, but leaving one alive on board does mean that Sonya can do some crazy things.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I want you, and you, and you.
This is bad news for Tom.
I think he needs Wind Fury right now based on his current hand just to stop that Glacial Shard being
Flanking
recycled.
strike.
Yeah, just based on his hand, I think he can still do it with just the Wind Fury.
Hunter's
right?
Mark does not.
No.
Is there any? That's the second Spring Ball he just used as well, right?
Finds the Tundra Rhino, but that's not going to do it. It has to be Wind Fury,
Wow.
or Sonya is going to make a mess of this on the following turn.
Wind
there
Fury.
it is.
And you see Tom adjusting his seat when he sees the Wind Fury. Tom knows what's going on right now. He's very much respecting the presence that Sonya can bring to this.
This is just one of those Rocky movie boxing match games of Hearthstone where both players are just swinging massive clubbing blows back and forwards to each other. There's no one's working the jab. This is just haymakers back and forth.
How could one man take so many right hooks to the face?
3 out of 5.
Yep. I think that the draw of Sonya into Zola run out of gas while Tom found, the Dire Mole off the Master's call here. It's just now it's becoming too much for Ryvius to handle, even with the Glacial Shards, even with the double preparation. Was missing just a way to stop what Tom was doing.
Yeah, one ball clear, or one draw of the Glacial Shard. Because his gas is there. His quest is, quote, done. It just happens to be in his deck. That's where the remainder of his Glacial Shards are. And that's what made that Wind Fury so huge. I've been talking about it for, I think, 2 or 3 turns now. That Sonya is a special case. There are things that you can do against Quest Rogue that only play around Sonya. Especially when that other Glacial Shard was in hand and Ryvius says, you know what, enough talk. 0-sum game from here, or 0-win game, I should say. I'm going to give it up.